Welcome to the Four Rooms podcast, where we explore the four rooms of entrepreneurship: health, wealth, scale, and relationships. Each episode is dedicated to opening new doors and uncovering insights that empower you to design your entrepreneurial journey to be both lucrative and fulfilling. And now, your hosts, Amber Spears and Brett Kaufman.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Four Rooms podcast. I am joined with a very special guest, Re Perez, all the way from Austin. Re, how are you doing today?
Doing amazing, Brett. So good to be with you today.
Yes, and I'm excited about this because we first got to connect, at least now, over a month ago, and had a lot of side conversations until now. And one of the things that really stood out to me about you is just how authentic you are and how just very in the flow, which is what I'm excited about because your whole background is in branding, but you have a whole different approach to branding than what a traditional branding agency is. And why I'm so excited to go into all these different areas of you. The first thing I want to talk about is that book behind you in red. So do you mind pulling that for us so we can talk
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? A little shameless plug.
So slide a little bit over so we can, it's half cut off. There you go. Your brand should be gay even if you're not. That is a phenomenal title.
I love that reaction. It is in the subtitle. It's the art and science of creating an authentic brand. I just had this suspicion that if I led with that, I wouldn't get the same reaction that I just got just now. So the point was like, all right, let me grab your attention, evoke an emotion, and then kind of talk to you what it's really about. And I really wanted to teach about authenticity in your branding.
Amazing. So tell me this origin story behind it. Why did you want to write that book? Where were you in your time of your life? Like, why was that so important to you?
Yeah, I wish I had some profound sort of like download that. I mean, it started with many people were telling me you should write a book, right? And you and I both know that probably shoulds aren't always the things you should be doing, but that's how it started. It was more of a challenge and an opportunity, and then I leaned into it, and I knew that I wanted to be able to document some of my thinking, so that it can help more people who aren't quite ready to work with me one-on-one, or who might not necessarily be a fit to work with me one-on-one. So I said, well, let me create a book. Let me have fun in the process, and let me have it be a little bit of a documentary of my story, because people always wanted to find out, like, why'd you get into branding, and what is it that I want to teach, and how do I want to set the record in terms of what branding is? Because I feel like I feel like I have been doing it for 23 plus years. And so I have a distinct point of view and approach and methodology around it that probably transcends some of the newbie branders that are coming in, right, into the market. And so I just wanted to put like my depth of wisdom and experience and insight and storytelling in a way that was authentic and unique to me.
And let's go into that. You have a different approach to branding. It was one of the first things that I noticed, and I'm excited to dive in. So walk me through that. Why, first off, do you think that your approach is different than the newbies that are coming into the space?
Well, yeah, and I guess in all fairness, I don't know all the newbies, but I feel like the discipline itself is evolving. Let's just start with, every time I do these interviews, I always start with foundationally, how are we defining these terms, brand and branding? And so it's been how I've been trained, and the philosophy that I've been using in my career is that branding is about creating a perception. It's about creating a perception over time. And marketing, distinct from marketing is about grabbing your attention right now. It's grabbing your attention, getting you to take action right now. That can be like the opposite sides of the spectrum. And so I think where the two marry is that, okay, well, let's first define how you want to be perceived over time. And then let's deploy marketing to create the attention to that aligns with that perception that you're trying to create, or to create the activities that support the perception that you're trying to create. So that's one piece of it. To me, I'm sure you've heard this phrase that for entrepreneurs, building a business is probably one of the best personal development programs you can take. I've sort of modified that. I feel building a brand, whether it's a business brand or a personal brand, it can be a really profound and deep spiritual journey or spiritual program, because it does require, if the premise is how are you perceived over time, it's my belief that you want to sort of do some deep excavation and exploration in terms of like, well, who are you, right? This existential question is like, who are you and how do you want to be perceived, and what's authentic to you, what's true to you. And then I guess the third thing that I would say is that I think for me, when I was running an agency for quite some time, most people relate to branding like logos and colors, and now it's probably like social media and followers and all that sort of stuff. And I think those are all useful metrics, and those are useful tools to building and creating a brand. I think for me, the way that I relate to branding is it's a multi-sensory, multi-dimensional sort of approach, a 360 degree approach that isn't necessarily about how you go to market, but it's also what's your culture of your company, and how do you want to be perceived with potential employees or potential recruits? What's your relationship with stakeholders? What's the client or customer experience? When we come to an event, what's the experience at the event? When you come to a mastermind, what's the experience at the mastermind? And all these things sort of ladder up to creating this thing called your brand. And so it doesn't just limit it to marketing, which is what most people think, and it doesn't limit it to design, which is what most designers might think, and it's not limited to social media, which is what a social media expert will tell you. It really is the totality of all of that. And I guess the last thing I'll say, since I like to speak in anywhere from 3 to 5 points, is that Jeff Bezos, I've been saying this a lot, Jeff Bezos talks about your brand being what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I like to complement that definition because I feel it's half true. And I feel the other half to that is that your brand is what you get to say about who you are before you walk into the room. And there's a distinct sort of, stature that comes in, and the clarity and the strength and clarity in knowing who you are and who you're not.
I love that. And then point two, when you were talking about like people figuring out who they are, is a terrifying question, because a lot of people, one, don't take the time to do it. It's taken me forever and a ton of therapy and life experiences, and sprinkled in some psychedelics to help me figure out that journey.
Yeah.
And even now, I know the version I am now, where I'm single, will be different when I'm a father, different than like when I'm a grandfather. So you're always evolving. So
right.
What process do you walk your clients or people in your community through when they're trying to figure out like, who am I, to even try to build a brand?
Yeah. So there's many different data points that I look at. And so there's both a linear and a non-linear process. So let me speak in terms of Venn diagrams, because I love talking about Venn diagrams. But I always start with like the who, what, and why. So if you think of like a Venn diagram, like, okay, well, this particular who is like, well, who can you serve? Who's your avatar? Most marketers start there too, right? Ostensibly, it's the who are you serving, and then the what is the problem that you're solving, and then why should they listen to you? Why should they listen to you versus all the other people that say that they solve that problem for that target audience? So it's the intersection of that sort of defines why you exist. It's the purpose of why you're here. And then the other piece is, well, what is, how do you want to position yourself, right? And so I look at another set of, another Venn diagram, which is what is something that is credible and distinct for you in the category. What is something, excuse me, I said that wrong. So what's something that is credible that you can own? What is something unique and distinct in the category, meaning the competitive set? And then what is something that is relevant to your target audiences? So just because you can credibly own it, and just because it's different in the category, you also want to make sure that you're relevant to the target audiences. And it's the intersection of that is where you want to position your brand. And then the last thing is And it's not necessarily in this order because, like I said, it's linear and non-linear, but I'm just explaining it in a linear fashion. But the other thing that I really look for is this term that for me has a lot of correlations to spirituality or metaphysics and whatnot. And it's the idea of resonance and getting clear on like what truly resonates for you from your beliefs, your mindset, your philosophy, your point of view, what resonates with you. And it has to first resonate with you before it can create resonance in the marketplace. And so that's a deep excavation, exploratory process to kind of peel back all the layers. And oftentimes what I end up doing with clients is sort of removing the stuff, like you mentioned plant medicine journeys. Sometimes plant medicine journeys sort of help you unlearn things that you've created for yourself. I think sometimes the branding process can be sort of like just stripping away the things that other people have latched on to you that said this is what your brand should be, where you get to come out and emerge of like, no, I'm just remembering who I am. I'm just recognizing the layers and the depths of who I already am, and I just get to play in that space more.
I love that because so you and I go to a lot of events. We're grateful that we're social people. Not everyone is social, therefore they are usually working on the computer more, and therefore they're like you said, they're more told what their brand is because this other agency does this, therefore I should do this. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick to my stomach of seeing all the same like hero story posts and like my life was terrible, then I did this, and my life is amazing, where it just kind of felt like there's so much regurgitating of the same stories, insert your name on top of that.
That's right.
Where I find now a lot of where we do our business, I'm meeting them and they're like, there's something about you, maybe there's not a right fit right now, but I like you, let's figure out how we can do this. So what I'm so curious about is like, when you work with someone that's a little bit more introverted, like, do you have a process of helping like pull out, like everyone's so unique and quirky, do you have a process to help them bring out their magic?
Like I shake them. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, snap out of it.
Yeah, wake up.
This part, I think I've done it so much now that it's become second nature. I don't know that I've really mastered, excuse me. I don't believe I've mastered the art of codifying it to be able to then teach other people my process, because I do draw upon like intuition, depth of experience, and also leaving myself open to discovering something that I don't know. And so if there was one thing that I'll tell you that really helps, that can be useful to answer your question, it's all in the line of questioning. And so there's a phrase, a problem half defined is a problem half solved. And so what I tend to look for is what's the question that's going to help unlock or reveal something, whether it's an answer to something, whether it's a clarification around something. And I guess, the best way that I can codify that process is to start with clarity. Usually people don't take action towards something, or they don't have confidence towards something because they need clarity around something. And then after clarity, then it's like, okay, well, now let's co-create. So I'm a big advocate of like, okay, just this is who you say you are. Let's co-create with other people to amplify who you are. And then the third step is to cultivate that perception in the marketplace. And then the last piece is to celebrate your big and small wins, if you will. I call it the 4 C's, but that celebration piece is so critical, and I think most entrepreneurs don't take the time to celebrate their wins. And so anyway, I gave you a little bit more, but I think it all really starts with the clarifying phase and asking the right questions and going several layers deeper.
Yeah. And I'm thinking through my journey, because that's where I got stuck, because the evolution that I've been through as an entrepreneur before being in this scene just felt like always iterating. So therefore sometimes that clarity part is just, it can be the hardest part, but that is what unlocks everything. Because I know, like with what you do when you work with people, especially on the spiritual capitalism side, like you combined two terms that don't usually seem like they would fit together. So I'd love for you to start talking about like how you came up with that and what you're doing to help people on that front.
Yeah, so that's my newest creation. So in the past year and a half, I sort of went through some deep, I actually had to go through my own process, right? I need to get clear on what is this next season, what is this next chapter for me. So we were chatting a little bit earlier beforehand, but I don't often get that I look my age. I'm turning 53, probably by the time this podcast comes out. I will be 53.
Maybe 65.
Maybe 65, depending on how long your post-production process takes. So I don't look my age, and I have the lived experience of being 53. And I think there's something that goes along in this process for people who maybe are approaching this period or are in this period of, you sort of start to unravel, like, what's this second mountain? What's this next chapter? And so I went through that process, and following a beautiful plant medicine ceremony and some journaling and meditation, and also just the different conversations that I've had. I didn't come up with that term. A colleague of mine mentioned it to me the other day, or mentioned it to me several months ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. And I was like, hey, are you doing anything with that? He's like, no, I'm not. He's like, but it's a really powerful term to kind of maybe describe what you're doing. And I was like, all right. And then early September, I decided to kind of combine, what are all the things that I like to talk about? Entrepreneurship, branding, plant medicine, psychedelics, personal growth and development, human expansion. And I also like to have fun, and I decided, well, why don't I create a mastermind that I want to attend, that I want to go to? And so I said, well, what about spiritual capitalism? And the idea here is not necessarily, so the spiritual part is both doing the inner work, the knowing thyself, and also doing the outer work. It's like being of service to other people. And then the capitalism part, for me, the two components for that is sort of, it's not just how much money you make, it's like how you're making your money.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ethos and the way that you're making money, rather than like, hey, I'm making X amount of money. And then the other part is, where are you spending your money? How are you spending your money? And are you doing it with integrity? Are you supporting other brands, allies, people who are on the same mission as you? And so I thought, why don't we put this in a beautiful container, have a shit ton of fun, go deep, because I just have a very short shelf life for like superficial conversations. So I was like, why don't I create a mastermind that fulfills on all of those? And the truth of the matter is, it's fun. I'm still in the early stages of it. I have a handful. I have about 14 founding members, and we'll see where it goes. All I know is it feels really near and dear to my heart, but it's a pure creation. It's never been done, I don't think, in this kind of way. And I get to kind of explore and expand.
That's so fun. So you said two things that I love. The first of which, I don't think I've heard many other people say the 5 things, because like that's a conversation tool that I use. So I've been super depressed twice in my life. The first time I was super depressed, I lost my ability to talk, to the point where I would basically like murmur and like mumble out sentences. So I would walk around with a notebook and I would write in it, and like when I had to communicate. Point being, as I was getting out of that, I remembered being like, I need to figure out a way to enjoy what I'm talking about, because it helped me retrain myself. So I would only talk about 5 conversation topics that I really enjoyed. And if the person doesn't connect with one of the 5, there's already a high likelihood we're not going to connect anyway. So like, why am I wasting my time in a superficial conversation?
Yeah.
So I was like, hell yeah, I love that you said that. And the other one was a little bit earlier, because I was just with my coach on Wednesday. We did this very powerful exercise together. It was about money. And like money mindset has been something I've been working on for such a long time, and I'm grateful I've gotten good at it, or better at it. Let me say, it always can like come back in. But it was around that money flows to the person that desires it, but also desires to use it for good. And of course, bad people can make money, but the idea is like when you are on your path and you're dialed in with how you want to spend your money, it's attracted to you. It wants you to do it for others. It wants you to provide for your friends, for your experiences, and give people that. Yeah. So like with what you're saying, spiritual, like that woo-woo concept, capitalism, you combine the two together, like that's how it flows. And I was like, hell yeah, I love that so much.
That's it. Yeah. See, I love that. I love that. So I'm going for resonance, right? In the conversation, I'm like, hey, does he resonate with what I'm putting down? And hopefully people listening in, like if you're resonating with that concept, like let's pull that thread together, right? Because I'm not the only one. I think it's going to take an army of people to really be in this kind of conversation in order to start to see a shift in how we do our businesses, how we relate to one another as entrepreneurs, like all that.
And I do like that entrepreneurship is mostly shifting that direction. Like we gravitate, like we find each other, like we were introduced through two mutuals. And what I love about 4 rooms is that's the 4 rooms of us: health, wealth, relationships, and scale. We're a room of people that thank God are doing well financially, but want to grow in the other 3 areas, because that's how we know we're going to make so much more money anyways and love and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I've never been like that monk mode where you got to hide and not talk to anyone for a decade and then pop out. Okay, so you made a lot of money, but you have no friends. Like, no, you can do both. Like, why is this a one or the other concept?
I've heard someone say many, many years ago, she goes, if you find yourself at the top and you feel alone, or you feel it's lonely at the top, right? This is the phrase that you hear. It's lonely at the top, right? Kind of like a pyramid, and you're at the top of the. Instead, if you find yourself at the top and you feel alone or you're lonely, then you did it all wrong. And and so I think we're meant to be able to do it with other people, to do it in community, and to collaborate and all that stuff. So I just wanted to presence that. I just felt the need to say that after what you just said.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to go back to something when you're talking about branding. And it was more rooted in this case. It's like, I feel like a lot of us get branding wrong because we're not as educated around it. Or like you said, the logo, it's the colors. Brands, I'm grateful that, especially you see this a lot, it's shifting from direct response. You have to build a brand. And so a lot more people are putting intention behind it. But for a brand to really take off in 2025 and beyond, is it like they need to share their hero story more often? Is it they're trying to what do you, when you coach someone, like, I know you're pulling out their creativity, what's unique about them, like, I guess, how do you help them make a content plan to show off how unique they are?
Yeah, so this is at least what I've been leaning into more with the clients that I serve. It really is the happy marriage of great strategic branding combined with the raw selling power of direct response. Okay. So what do I mean by that? And this just could be a function of the clients that I work with, but I'm kind of seeing it even on a macro level. So at the end of the day, you want to build a brand that solves a problem, or that solves the present pain of your target audiences, right? And so what I'm finding is that from a go-to-market strategy, you want to enter into what's still consistent with marketing. You want to enter the conversation that people are already having with their present pain. And then you want to come in with your unique solution on how you can help them solve that. And that unique solution can be a combination of the way that you formulated the solution, your style and approach, your methodology, or even just your attention, your philosophy, or your attention to how the human to human connection that you create in solving that problem. So I don't want to make it sound overly complex, but brands should ostensibly solve people's problems. And those problems can either be functional problems, they can be economic problems in terms of time or money, or they can be emotional problems. And so if I think you hit all those notes, then everything else just helps to amplify or augment the experience.
So I like your approach because it's more in flow. Like I've talk to other people and they're like, all right, if you're going to be posting every day, like X have to be this style of post, X have to be Y. You're like, no, you're pulling it out. And then from there, you're able to feel what needs to be said based upon where someone is in your journey. And I think that's the right approach to it. I like that.
I'll say one more thing just to make it even a little bit more tangible for someone listening is there's a million things that you can do when it comes to building your brand or marketing or social media. I tend to focus on two lines of questioning, which can help map out and prioritize what someone should implement, right? And so if you think about it, for some of you want to maybe put it into a 3-column spreadsheet. The first column are all the different things that you can do. This is absolutely helpful for visionaries who have like shiny object syndrome as well. But like, what are all the things that you could do? Like posting stories, posting reels, like all the stuff, list all that out. And then the next column is a prioritization on a scale of 1 to 5. What is the impact that this will have on your brand or your business? And those can be two different conversations. I get that. And so you kind of have to lean in which one's more important. For an early stage business, it might be what's the most impact on your business, i.e. revenue. For a more established brand, it might be like, hey, what's the more established business might be what's going to have the highest impact on our brand, the perception. Scale of 1 to 5. And then the third column is what is the degree of implementation? And 5 being easy to implement and 1 being difficult to implement. Difficult could be defined in terms of like time, money, or resources, right? It might take more money, it might take more people, or just might take more time. And so what you might discover when you go through this process, the ones that are high impact and the ones that are very high in terms of ease of implementation, those are the things that you should focus on the next 30 to 45 days. And then the things that are leveled down from that, obviously they are high impact, but they might require more time, money, or resources. That might be like a 45 to 90 day thing. And the things that have no impact, like I think that just kind of like deprioritizes a lot of stuff. But I think people get caught up in saying like, I have to do everything. And I think it's about doing the right things.
I like that, the prioritization part, because it can be overwhelming. It's like I have to do all this stuff at the post, all this, and think of the content. It's a whole crazy process, unless, like you said, you break it down step by step, makes it easy.
That's right.
So as we enter the last segment of this, I want to just ask you, is there anything about branding that you really want to talk about that I have not brought up yet to make sure people really understand your unique approach to it?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I feel, well, I think, why don't we do a tie back to the book, right? Because I think the book kind of actually, on a very meta level, people always ask me like, well, why did you name it that way, right? Well, okay, so if you think about it, I teed it up with 1, right? If I just said your authentic brand, the art and science of creating an authentic brand, I don't know that I'd get the same reaction that I got when you first mentioned it. And so, yeah, so a strong brand should evoke an emotion, should elicit or evoke an emotion. Number 1. Number 2, a strong brand doesn't always have to, but can do really well when it's bold and it stands out. So if you saw my book title, it's like big bold letters, pink. How many pink books do you see on Amazon? And big letters, right? And so it stands out and it's bold. The third piece is that it should pique your curiosity, right? And so oftentimes people say, well, why should my brand be gay? So a great brand should pique curiosity. I'm also kind of teaching on a meta level, like the power of words, right? When I ask people, well, why do you think it's called that way? Before I answer it, I get a full range of answers. And remember I said a brand is a perception. So people say, oh, well, gay people this. And I was like, well, I could have meant your brand should be happy, but the signal to the word gay creates a whole other world when people relate to it in their own way. So the power of language. And then the last piece is really near and dear to me. It's like, I think for a long time, well, I came out in the 90s in New York and it wasn't really safe to come out. And so you can be the most powerful and the most confident when you can be fully, authentically yourself, knowing that people are going to love you, hate you, accept you, not be attracted, not resonate with you. The real power is being absolutely okay regardless. And so that's the journey for me. And that's where, I mean, I can put out a book like that publicly. And I think for the most part, at least I don't know anyone saying any negative things, but I think for the most part, I think it creates a little bit of fun and tongue in cheek and a little excitement, but there will be some naysayers, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful too, because it's going to turn off the people that, like you said, are absolutely, you don't want to even be friends with, period. And then it's just going to attract more of the people that you do want to connect with into your life.
That's right.
It's phenomenal. I that makes so much sense, because like just I hate when you look on social media and you just see people, like, you could tell they're like trying to force a polarization post.
Yeah.
They're like, are you this or that? And you're like, what like, oh, you just want engagement. But like, with what you're saying, it's so genuine. It's like, hey, this is who I am. And now I'm taking the unique qualities of I am and my unique life story. And I'm now going to make it more frontward facing. And if you like that, great. If you don't like that, cool. Like, I mean, for me in my world, like being Jewish, especially with everything that's happened since October 7th, like the amount of hate that like my Jewish friends get, which is like, that used to be my world. I used to work in politics for half a decade on pro-Israel issues, and I loved it. And so, the amount, like seeing that was like such a visceral reaction for people just literally, hey, we're trying to defend our homeland from people that are trying to like wipe us off. And it's just like, wow, I am Jewish. This is my thing. And I'm talking about why, like what it means for me to be Jewish, and also like my education on spending over half a decade learning this issue. And yet that either like brought people to be like, I want to learn more, or people be like, screw you. And I'm like, fascinating. So there's so many unique things about you that you can just bring out, start talking about, and you'll see quickly who wants to be part of you and who does not. And that's 100% okay. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad we're simpatico. I'm glad we connected, because I feel like we just have a lot simpatico, a lot of things in common, and just really excited about what you and Amber and the team over at 4 Rooms are creating. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. And where can people find you? Because I want people to know about spiritual capitalism. I want people to know about the book. I want people to be able to hire you in whatever capacity. What is that like?
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, and also just to close one loop on that.
Yes.
The mastermind that I created, I know you alluded to, but if those are listening in, the spiritual capitalism mastermind, that's the phrasing that I'm using for that. But everything is on reperez.com. This was a big shift, moving from an agency of really building a personal brand, which, by the way, we never talked about that, is everyone should be building their personal brand, hands down. That wasn't a topic like maybe 10, 12, 13 years ago, but if you're in business, or even if you're a professional in a corporation, right, you should be looking at who you are as a personal brand. And so it's basically my personal brand site where you can find all the things, Re Perez, or Instagram. I'm kind of half on, half off Instagram, but at the Re Perez, whatever. I'm on Instagram. You can put my handles in whatever in show notes here.
We'll drop in the show notes.
Yeah.
Cool. And also, you'll be with us in Scottsdale. So what I'm excited about is it'll be another great way to help get you on more shows, more exposure, because at 4 Rooms, which I'm so excited for you to come to us, we help people scale in 3 ways: connecting them to the right clients that they can work with, referral partners, and getting more podcast stage and webinar exposure, because we just have a massive network, and we customize the entire experience to you to get you what you want. And so I'm excited for you to join us, because you're going to have so much fun in Scottsdale, and it's coming up soon. We're almost a month away, which is just too much work to get done.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Cool. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Brent, for the conversation, and we'll chat soon.
As we wrap up today's episode, we have something special just for you. If you've been inspired by what we've explored today and you're ready to take your learning to the next level, then our 4 Rooms Mastermind live event is the perfect next step. And because you're a part of our podcast family, we're offering an exclusive 10% discount on your registration when you apply and are accepted. This is your chance. It's your chance to build relationships with other ambitious entrepreneurs like yourself, to dive deeper into the 4 rooms of entrepreneurship, and to connect with experts who can truly help accelerate your growth. Simply follow the event link in the description of this episode and use the promo code 4rooms10. That's FOURROOMS10 on your application to claim this opportunity. This offer is subject to application approval and it's limited, so don't wait too long to make your decision. Join us and transform your journey with the insights and networking that only our live events can offer. Thank you for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you at the event and, of course, right back here next time on the 4 Rooms podcast. Until then, keep balancing and keep growing.